and welcome everyone to SwiftUI from scratch number 6. In last episode you've learned how to use the state variables, and now we will use them to make transition between your views using the sheet and full screen cover modifier. Lastly, we will introduce the binding property wrapper. Just a quick reminder before we start, visit our GitHub profile to see every source code from each video on this channel and also free exercises for your practice. Let's now start coding. Both the sheet and full screen cover modifier are very easy to use and very similar to each other. They both need a state boolean variable which defines whether the sheet or full screen cover are shown or not. If the variable is false, the cover or sheet is not showing, and when it's true, they are showing. So we need to introduce an addState variable. So addState private var, we will call this showing and set it to false by default. After that, you can use the sheet modifier on any kind of view, and for the isPresented argument, we will put our showing variable with the $sign because it is a state variable. And inside the curly braces, we want to introduce a view which will be presented on the sheet. So we will use a simple text view right now and say second view. We are almost good to go now. The last thing we need is some kind of an event which will toggle the showing variable from false to true to toggle showing the sheet. One way to do it is to use a button. So we will embed our text view in a VStack, and after that use a button with an action closure which will leave empty now, and the content will be a text view which will say change view, or rather show sheet. In the action closure of the button, we need to toggle the value of showing from false to true. So we will say showing and use the toggle function as we did in the last episode. And now everything is set. If you hit the live preview now and hit the show sheet button, you can see that we got our second view inside the sheet view. A way to dismiss the sheet view is to tap and drag the sheet view to get back to your original view. I will now change the text view to some kind of a color so it will be more visible. I will use color red and the edges ignoring safe area modifier. And now if we hit the live preview and show the sheet, you can see that we got our red color. The problem with the sheet modifier is that it is not full screen. However, the advantage is that again you can use the drag gesture to dismiss the view. To show a full screen cover view, you need to use the full screen cover modifier. To show a full screen cover modifier, you only need to change one word in this code in order for it to work. You will use the full screen cover modifier instead of the sheet modifier. So you'll say full screen cover, and it also needs the isPresented state variable and the content of the cover. If we hit the show sheet button right now, you can see that we got our red color on the full screen. The problem now might be that we cannot dismiss this cover right now, and we're stuck on this cover forever and can't go back to our original first view. We could introduce another button inside our color red view to toggle the showing variable as well and go back to our first view, but another alternative is using the onTap gesture modifier. So on our color red, we will use on-tab gesture. And here you can execute any type of code when the user taps inside the frame of a view. So we will simply use showing toggle again. And when we hit the live preview, we are now inside our red view. And if we tap on our color red, the showing will be toggled from true to false now. And we are back to our original view. In the real project, you would most likely extract this view to your own custom view to make the code more clean. The way to do this very fast is to use command left click on the view and use the extract subview option right here. This will create a new structure with your view and you can name it however you like. So we will do red view, for example. By doing this, we will get an error immediately. The error is saying that we cannot find showing in scope. The red view structure has no idea what showing means, because the showing variable is declared inside our content view. We need to make some kind of connection between the content view and our red view to share the information of the showing variable. For this, we will introduce a new property wrapper, which is called addBinding. The binding property wrapper is only used in combination with an addState property. To use this variable, we will introduce the addBinding property wrapper, say var, and we can name this whatever we want. However, if I want to connect two variables across two views, I usually use the same name. So I will use showing as well. And for this, we will only say what will be the data type. Let's fix our last error right now, and then we will take a look on what is happening in the background. The last error is saying that we're missing an argument for parameter showing in call. The showing variable is not initialized. It does not have a value inside the red view. It only knows what type of a variable it will be. So we will need to connect this showing variable, which is a binding variable, to an addState variable. So you can use the fixing button as well. And you can see that it is expecting a bool that is binding type. For this, we will use the $sign again and use the showing variable. In our content view, we introduce an addState variable, which is a boolean that is false by default. And we have our text view and our fullScreenCover modifier, which shows another view when the showing variable is set to true. We also have a button down below, which whenever the user taps on the button, the showing variable is set to true. So after the user taps on the button, we get our own custom view, which is called red view. What we need to do now is come back from the red view to our original first view. So we've introduced an on-tab gesture, and we need to toggle the variable back to false. So when we tap on the red cover, we go back. When we extracted the view to another custom view, we had a problem that it didn't know what a showing variable is. So we needed a way to connect those two variables and make a connection between two views for them to share this information. For this, we introduced another property wrapper which is called addBinding and named it however we liked, and we needed to declare what type it will be, which matches the type of the original addState property. After that, when calling the red view inside our content view, we need to specify the parameter, and this showing connect it to our state property using the $sign. Whenever we change the binding variable inside the red view, it notifies the addState property inside the content view, and it forces the whole content view to re-render with the showing of being false again, which affects the full screen cover, which is only shown when the showing is true. So that is why it will be hidden again. When sharing information between two views using the addState and addBinding property wrappers, we often refer to the addState as quote-unquote the source of truth, and the bindings inside the view can change the value of the source of the truth. But please be very careful with using this practice. The addState and addBinding property wrappers are only used when you want to share an information between two views. When trying to do this with multiple views, it will not end up pretty. For sharing some kind of an information between multiple views, so let's say 5, 6 or even 20 views, we will use a different kind of property wrappers, which will be explained later on in this series. Okay everyone, thank you so much for watching SwiftUI from scratch episode number 6. And as always, if you've learned something new, be sure to subscribe to our channel to see the future episodes and like this video. See you soon!